Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. This is the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko here. Tariq Spence, WDKX in the middle.
Hot. Isn't it hot outside right now? Is that why Duffy's wearing what he's wearing?
Well, there's other reasons for that, too, I imagine. And Pat Duffy, sleeveless, man, you have guts.
Okay, well, first of all, it's 95 degrees as we tape this. You're lucky I'm wearing pants right now.
And we're not certain you are.
Well, no, yeah, and I'm not going to put the camera down because I want to make sure we get to keep airing this show on this station. But, I mean, how could you say no to a Shaquille O'Neal throwback Cavs jersey? It's like one of the rarest jerseys I have. They made like 7 of them, and I got one of them for the pro shop in Cleveland when I went out to catch a game. I love this jersey.
What are they sold out of the Boston one? Gee.
And before we leave, I think you need to explain the hat, too.
Yeah, real quick, tongues down, head up, from a company called Gong Show. I love the Stones, so you got to love the logo. And there's like this old school thing in hockey, you know, people that keep their tongues in their skates down, and then people that tuck them up underneath their leg pads. I am a tongues down guy. It's a more old school way to do it, so I wear the hat to let people know I'm cool and you're not.
Hey, Tariq, Drew Brees, respected around the league, said originally any protest involving kneeling during the national anthem stuff was an affront to being an American. And then within 24 hours, he walks that back with what appears to be a sincere apology, with his wife tweeting, "We are the problem."
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the interesting things I find about that whole thing was the day before he had just participated in what was like a social media blackout that understood the fact that there were some racial inequalities going on. So that's what I think really took it to the next level. It wasn't so much that Drew Brees said what he said, and I do believe that that's what he said, and he meant it. It was the fact that the day before you participated in what we thought you got, and then we hear that you don't get the whole thing. Now, that being said, you didn't have to do 5 apologies, and it doesn't make Drew Brees the worst person in the world. We all know that he's done great things, but that just goes to show you people who you think get it don't get it, and he didn't, and that's why I think he apologized so many different times, because it was kind of like, wait a minute, hold on, I didn't truly understand the whole thing, and tried to walk it all the way back, when even his wife apologized.
Pat, there's a bigger issue here, too, and this gets to something that we've talked about for years, I think. The whole idea about us wanting athletes to speak out on social issues or issues that involve things other than their sport, and then they do, and it's like, this is great as long as we agree with you. Now, Drew Brees, the opinion that Drew Brees threw out there 2 years ago was like official policy in the NFL, and then he became a pariah. And I wonder, I said, I don't know how you can protect both sides of this.
Well, there is no protecting both sides of it, right? It's going to come down to how you legitimately feel about something. And now we're not seeing players pandering to what they think is going to make them the most money. At least personally, I don't think. We're seeing how they legitimately feel. Like, what is very unique about this situation is it is a microcosm of a larger problem in this country. What happened with Drew Brees is the problem that is happening nationwide. Drew Brees is a guy who, for his entire career, has worked with the majority of his roster being black guys, right? And he's friends with folks that are black, and he talks to folks that are black, and I'm sure has them over to his house and all these things, right? And he believes that he understood the issues that were happening. He didn't. He didn't fully understand what the problem was, what these guys had been saying for years and years and years. It didn't fully get the entire story until after he said the thing that he said. Look, there are a lot of people right now who are making arguments about why things are okay and why they're not a racist and why, this is over extreme and this is a little farther. Look, if you haven't lived the experience, there's no way you can understand. If you haven't seen it with your own eyes, there's no way that you know what that's like on a daily basis walking around like that. And Drew Brees, although he might be a great guy, and like Tariq said, he's done a ton for the community and he has friends of every race, creed, and color, he didn't fully understand it until these people that he considered friends came to him and said, look, this is how it actually is, and we're going to have a real discussion. And, I mean, unless you're a cynic and believe that he's doing this all to try and save his own you-know-what, well, maybe he finally understood it.
Can I just say this, though? Drew Brees got a lot of public flack, and over time, and I believe that he will do the work to try to amend fences and do what's right and continue to help people in New Orleans through his religion or whatever organization he wants to do. I will say this, though. He didn't lose his job, okay? And there are players and people that have made comments that have lost their job. And so when you look back on it and you look at the comments that were made, I didn't like what he said, but is there room for Drew Brees to come back? Of course. Is there room for, like, for example, Jake Fromm to come back? Of course, because you have to give some room to come back and get it. And you also have to allow the door to be open for people that, oh, wait a minute, if Drew Brees doesn't understand, do I understand? So,
yeah, you hit it right. Tariq, you hit it right on the head. You give a person room for growth, and you find out by that person's actions moving forward if there was a legitimate thing learned. And if there was, that's fantastic. If there wasn't, I mean, look, the sad fact of the matter is, it's Drew Brees. The guy is too talented to be really hurt by something like this. And to be honest, whether or not how he feels about something, whether it's appropriate or inappropriate, should affect his job is a whole other hour-long discussion. But it is a good thing. It is a good thing what we witnessed between all of the parties involved over the last week.
This is the Rochester Press Box, and we're talking about the Buffalo Bills next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay and Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Thanks for joining us. This is the Rochester Press Box. Pat Duffy. We're talking Buffalo Bills. You remember Chris Berman, of course, we all do. It says Circle the Wagons, Buffalo Bills. He was like the media's biggest supporter of the Bills. Well, we got Adam Schein now, who is seems to be the lead cheerleader for this team. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's been banging the drum. I like him. Look, even taking him away from a Bills standpoint, I find him very charming. I think he's funny. I like him a lot. But the fact that he loves the Bills, even better, as long as he doesn't take it too far. Because, again, I've been saying it, and I'm still feeling it, man. Every time I see another article that says, oh, sleeper Super Bowl pick, or oh, going to win the division, or guaranteed, it still makes me wet myself just a little itty bit. Give me 6 or 7 games before I feel comfortable that he can say, things you want about this team. But right now, I don't know if I'm ready for it, Bill.
It's funny that people say these things, and it's just the cringe that comes over Bill just a little bit. It's just worth hearing. It's just fun.
His edge and my edge are a little bit different. Tariq, so Adam Schein's NFL.com, he listed the Bills as the number 1 team worth getting on the bandwagon for.
Yes, and a couple of those teams to actually watch. I'm getting a lot of people jumping on not only the Bills, but the Browns, of course, Tampa Bay as well. I think I'm starting to understand now why Duffy feels the way he feels, because this is the way he glowed about Josh Allen and what McDermott is doing and the culture and everything. We haven't even gotten to camp. We haven't even seen anything close to it. I just believe this is what he's doing is just setting up for a big failure for the season that I hope doesn't happen for Bills fans. It's not like I'm wishing that it happens. I'm just saying that I'm not, Duffy. Don't give me that look. I'm not wishing for it to happen, but we've been building up the Bills. Good draft pick, great team chemistry. They've been working on this with McDermott for 4 years. They finally got Leslie Frazier defense. We've been working on this Tom Brady is gone. And now comes the season that will define whether Josh Allen is the quarterback going forward, whether they will go past the first round in the playoffs. This is different. This is AFC East champions playoff berth, deep AFC conference game if you can get there. That's what this is.
You guys know how much I love Las Vegas and the whole betting thing. Pat, for you, I said, this one fascinated me. So Josh Allen is 50-1 against winning the MVP in the NFL this year. So at 50-1, he was the 15th highest choice. He was drawing more money by a lot into Las Vegas at 50-1 to win the MVP than anybody else who was listed. I find that fascinating.
Look, that actually kind of makes sense to me, right? With the things that were brought in for him to play with, right? We draft picks of the running backs, Stephon Diggs, all those things. The offensive line is pretty solid. At 50-1, that's a really good return on money in a division that's opened itself up, and a guy that has shown that he not only has the ability to run the ball, this team could be winning a bunch more. Look, he's exciting. He's a highlight reel kind of guy. I'll take Josh Allen 50-1 to win the MVP, especially if he's the 15th best odds. What I don't like, what I'm not enjoying is, look, you have to look back at what we saw last of this team. We watched a Bills team, and I love them to death, choke away a 2-score lead in a playoff game that they had locked up. With the exception of Stephon Diggs, what has changed since then? And would Stephon Diggs on that roster last season have kept you from choking that lead away? Because I believe it was more coaching than it was the players. Like Tariq brought up, people are raving about Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator, and McDermott and all these things. Did they take a class that nobody told me about in the offseason? Did something happen? Like, there are still things, question marks that I have about these guys. Just take a breath. Everybody calm down. Just calm down, please. Everybody calm down.
I do not have money to burn, so I will not be taking that bet. I'm sorry.
Look at you. Look at you, Tariq. I like Bills fans. Come in with the dig at the end. I don't like it.
The voice of reason. We're at the Rochester Press Box. Like It or Not is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us at the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko, Tariq Spence, Pat Duffy. Tariq, like it or not, the idea of NFL running backs holding out and making something of it.
Hey, listen, it's worked. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's contract is crazy with Carolina. Dalvin Cook wants a big contract out of Minnesota. Looks like he's going to hold out. He wants that same, I think it was like $14, $15, $16 million range. The problem here is that running backs are readily available out of the draft. And in, one or two drafts, you could have as good of a talent as you have right now. Nobody pays for a running back for a second contract. So it's a cruel world for running backs, depending on where you slice it. But Dalvin Cook should not be making $1.3 million. We all know that. It's just a matter of will he be making, a decimal over $13 million and how that'll affect Minnesota. So, I mean, he'll hold out, he'll get his pay, but I mean, it worked for a number of players, including Ezekiel Elliott. So, I mean, we'll see. I think he deserves it. He played well last year and he needs to be paid.
It doesn't seem like they have a lot of leverage, though, Pat. You mentioned Elliott, Melvin Gordon, Cook this year. These guys, I mean, if I was a football player and taking a beating like the running backs do, that's the last position I think I want to play.
Well, yeah, sure, but are you thinking about that as a 12-year-old kid who's playing Pop Warner football? Are you thinking about that as a senior in high school when the coach says we need you to come in here and your scholarships are available when you're playing this position? I mean, it's not until you get to the point where you have to start worrying about taking care of your body do you realize, oh man, I might have made a very poor decision here. That being said, how do you not pay Dalvin Cook with the money that you've been handing to Kirk Cousins to be milquetoast quarterback this entire time? They've painted themselves into a pretty rough corner up there in Minnesota.
Pat, like it or not, the whole thing with NASCAR taking a possible stand against the Confederate flag being flown at their races.
This is going to be very interesting to see. So it's not Bubba Watson. Why am I blanking on the name? I don't watch NASCAR. I don't want to.
Watkins.
Watkins. Oh, Bubba
Wallace. That's right. Yeah.
Wallace.
Okay, Wallace.
Big NASCAR fans here.
Let me tell you, and I missed on that one too. No. So not only are they talking about the Confederate flag ban, but Bubba Wallace earlier this week releases art for his car, and it's a Black Lives Matter car. It's a white hand and a black hand coming together on the front of the hood, and the Black Lives Matter on the side of it, and a whole bunch of other decals. The bravery of that move on his part is astonishing. Because you heard guys earlier this week from all other leagues again, we were talking about the Drew Brees stuff earlier and the flag stuff comes back up again with the protests, that they were afraid to protest because they thought their jobs were going to be at stake. And other guys talked about how when they had the support of their teammates and other guys in the league, it made them feel stronger. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there aren't going to be too many people willing to stick their neck out in NASCAR to support what's happening here. So you might be doing this on your own, and you might be alienating your core fan base. I say that not knowing. That's why I'm very interested to see what happens when this all plays out.
This is a culture that I'm telling you, it's going to be hard, especially in the southern states. It's going to be hard. I applaud them for doing it. I just know that it's not going to be as quick as possible because it's ingrained. It's ingrained in part of the culture of racing. But maybe he could endear himself to other drivers, younger drivers with an open mind down the line and in the future, and it can be phased out. But it's going to take a long time in NASCAR.
That's really why it would be meaningful if they did do something. We are the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished business. Next.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Rochester Press Box, Bill Pucko, Tariq Spence, Pat Duffy. It's time for Unfinished Business. Pat.
Buffalo Sabres breaking news are not in a good spot, but it seems that they might be in an even worse spot than we thought they were before. Look, they don't qualify for a 2014 playoff, and they wouldn't have qualified had they had a 2014 playoff for the last 7 years. They're about to come into a tie for the longest streak without making the playoffs in the NHL. Oh, and this week, an NHL prospect who a lot of Sabres fans were counting on being part of this team within the next couple of years decided he would rather go play in Russia than play for the Buffalo Sabres. Lawrence Pilot signed a deal in the KHL. Essentially, now we don't know the details of the deal. There is a possible out clause once we see it that he can come back to Buffalo, but it doesn't look that way. At one point, this kid was one of your most promising defensive prospects, and there is a logjam in defense right now. A situation that the general manager could have taken care of last year by trading a couple of guys, which they didn't do, which would have brought offense, which would have put you at least at 23rd, so you could be playing in a 2014 playoff right now. Look, we know things in Buffalo have been bad for a long time. But I didn't think it got to the point where a prospect who has no other option than another NHL roster would choose to play on a continent away instead of playing for your team because he doesn't like the way things are going. It's worse than we thought, and I'm not excited about it.
CrossFit CEO George Glassman announced that he is stepping down as the head of the company. Now, he founded it about 20 years ago and started the whole process of CrossFit and built it into a great corporation. He announced that I'm stepping down as CEO of CrossFit because of the comments that he made on social media involving the death of George Floyd. He said he created a rift in the community and unintentionally harmed many people of its members. Or is it the fact that Reebok announced on Monday that they're ending their long-term relationship with CrossFit? And either way, the mission statement of CrossFit is what really got my eye. They support a number of different great organizations in a need for what they say on their mission statement for a diverse community. A number of different communities that have been affected by them and have been supported by them, including schools, veterans, and educating, advocating, and developing efforts to specific areas combating chronic disease. Racial insensitive comments are chronic diseases. And if you're a CEO of a company and you don't know that, your time has passed too.
Ordinarily, the 20 employees of the Rochester Red Wings would be in over their heads and work to do, preparing to put on games throughout the summer at Frontier Field. It's a labor of love. I mean, these guys are hands-on, personal, and you never hear any of them complain. These days, there isn't enough work to go around, okay? They're selling a mask, a face mask, which is cooler than the average disguise. They've also opened up the team store. You can purchase that. There's even curbside delivery for it. And over this past week, they just had a dining experience that was set up with 40 tables out on the warning track. These are all good things, and it would be nice if we supported them. But here are the facts. The Red Wings took out a small business loan that carries them through later this month. When that expires, there's a really good chance that many of those 20 employees, 10 of which are supporting families through their paycheck, will be furloughed for probably about 6 months. You know, this is really unfortunate, and it's a story that's common as far as COVID is concerned. But unapologetically, I would ask you, as fans of the baseball team, as members of the community of Rochester, to do what you can to support these people. You know, buy a season ticket, maybe invest in the future of the game, because we are all still in this together. That's Unfinished Business, and that is our show. Pat Duffy, thank you very much. Tariq Spence, good job.
Always a pleasure, guys. Have fun, and see you next week.
Alrighty. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.